All right, so this is our discussion for that's due September 8th, and my name's Dallas Gonzalez.
My name's Cheyenne Burton.
All right, so let's just get into it. So the first question kind of relates to the article about the nonprofit health and the like YMCA's and stuff like that versus the ones that are profitable. And the first question is, what are some of the challenges for nonprofit health clubs that are trying to compete with the profit ones?
Well, pretty much what I got out of that article is the the tax exempt status quo.
Yeah. And so, like, some stuff that I got out of it was, like, for certain challenges, anyways, it didn't necessarily state it in the article, but stuff that we went over was like, so if you're a nonprofit, you can't have like a deficit at the end, so you can't have be in like debt, owe more money than what you take in. And for profit ones, I'm pretty sure you can. So profit, like Gold's Gym and stuff like that, can go out and build these nice facilities and have, all this equipment and all these different kinds of programs to where places like the Y can only offer a, whatever like money they take in. So if they only take in, $2 million, they can only offer clubs that exactly reach that point. So that's like a kind of a big challenge for them because they can't really compete with that. So how can some of these challenges be addressed?
Well, I think that like the non for profit will probably either have to um, like take well, if they want to expand, they're gonna have to end up doing the tax, you know, instead of having their tax exempt because they're expanding in ways that the for profit is doing it. So it's kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could, stay as they're doing and, keep it as a even level instead of going out and building fitness facilities for them and stuff like that.
Yeah, so something that I think that it could be addressed would be possibly because if like a place like Gold's Gym, for example, they offer a full workout place and they offer, these certain things. But at the same time, there's stuff they don't offer. Like, if they don't have a basketball court or if they don't have these certain programs, I think the Y should definitely invest in something like that instead of trying to compete with them. They kind of, because if they're going to be on a competition level with them, I don't think they stand a chance just because the profit ones can pretty much go out and get anything. But, they have like their set things right now. So, if the Gold's Gym doesn't offer, like aerobics for like older people, or if they don't offer stuff for youth, I think the Y should definitely zero in on something like that just because they won't be on a competition level. They'll kind of be, I don't want to say coinciding, but at the same time, they're kind of doing their own thing. They're doing one thing, and Gold's Gym or whatever is doing that thing. And so instead of competing with each other and making someone choose, they can kind of go over and do these programs at the Y that the Gold's Gym doesn't offer. At the same time, they could still have their membership to Gold's Gym, and they can go do their own thing over there. And I think that's kind of like that could be one way that I think the Y could definitely address something like that. Um, so moving on to the next. Oh, you got anything else to say?
No, I was just gonna say like with that, like then you'll have like a problem of people wanting to pay for two different memberships to go to one for one
Yeah,
thing or one
that could be. Honest, isn't
or the other.
yeah, isn't the Y free though? I believe. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess not because they have to make somewhat money. So I get what you're saying. Um, yeah, that's kind of a toughie just because I don't feel like they should try to compete because I
Yeah, I
feel
don't
like
either.
yeah, because they kind of they get blown out of the water. I feel, but so I feel like if they offer one thing, offer the other thing. I mean, I know what you said though. It's kind of hard, especially if you're on a budget or something, to try to have to balance two different types of memberships. So that is another challenge that I think that could possibly be addressed in the future. So you ready for question three?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so this is kind of going with the one that we read about, the school, the fees with the budgets. And I came up with this one. So what are some other ways public schools can come up with funding um, for funding, or are the student fees the only way to make the budget shortfalls? Like, so if having those fees, is that the only way to really to get the money that they need, or do you think there's any other ways they can come up with certain funding for the kids and stuff like that, so the parents don't have to pay so much money out of pocket?
I mean, what I could really think of is the fundraiser
Yeah,
thing because, well, I went to a public school
yeah,
and we did a few fundraisers
yeah,
for the school,
yeah,
like that cookie stuff or
yeah.
um, books. And they also had like coupon books that we would sell
Hmm.
that they get like a certain amount of discounts.
Yeah, yeah. No, I did like that same
Like
thing.
this, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you on that. For, I think fundraising, I know sometimes it may be limited in the money you make just because, the stuff you're selling might not be expensive or whatever. But I think if everyone does it, it can add up, and I feel like it can add extra funding to the schools. But at the same time, I think of the government itself, I think they're not really funding education like they need to be, and I feel like that's where the biggest problem lies. Because if the schools are asking parents have to pay for, like I think it's an article like school supply, like papers and stuff like that. Just like how for your kids you have to send them with like tissue boxes and hand sanitizers and stuff like that that the school uses.
And I so agree on that. Just for the simple fact, like to play a sport, it costs a certain amount of money
Yeah,
to play in that sport. But then you got some people that pay it, but then there's some people that get like free or reduced lunch,
yeah,
and so they don't even have to pay sometimes,
yeah,
or they halfway pay it,
yeah,
or stuff
exactly.
like that.
And then that might put in the burden on a different family, um, having to pay a little bit more. Um, Yeah, so like I said, I think the main thing is kind of just the government. Whatever they do, they're just not really putting the best resources into funding these schools because from just reading all that, they have to pay for whether it be uniforms, sports, just the school itself, supplies, and everything seems to be adding up.
Yeah.
And if you happen to have a family of four, of kids, that definitely can take its toll, on that family. And so that question kind of goes into this one. If you were in charge of a school, like, whatever, and the superintendent said that there were some sports that they needed to fully cut out, what would you do to come to a conclusion on what sports would need to be cut, and what factors, if any, would you look at to help you determine this budget cuts or sports cuts?
I guess there is a few things you can look at. You can see like which sport is being played the most or wanted to be played the most,
Hmm.
or you can look at the budget on how much you're paying for each sport and try to, I don't know, weigh it out there.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I totally agree with you on seeing what sport, if golf only has three kids and we're funding golf, and football has 60, it doesn't make sense to cut football and leave golf. And also, I feel, if there's a sport that's really struggling, whether it be with their record or whatever it may be, and they're kind of costing school money, rather than making money, I think that's definitely something that should be looked at. And I think that's a good determining factor too. You never really want to have to cut anything, and if parents aren't really willing to pay, then I think that's a decision that has to be made. And I would rather put my resources in a really good football team or basketball team or hockey team or whatever it be, and have them be good and make us money, whether it be through ticket sales or going to the playoffs and just extending the season, rather than having a baseball team that wins 3 games every year and never makes the playoffs and no one ever shows up. I think that's definitely a decent reason to put it in consideration to be on the cutting room floor when it comes to cutting these sports. So like I said, it'd be hard to have to do, but I think sometimes decisions like that do need to be made, and I think
Yeah.
that's like a good. I think that's a good determining factor on what possibly needs to be cut, what won't need to be cut. And you have to look towards the future too. What's going to help you in the future for your, in the future for the school and that type of thing. So, yeah, any more to add on that? Are you ready to go to number 5?
Number five.
All right, so number five, hopefully it's not too confusing, but it's how does the student fees for the public schools, so what we were just talking about, affect the way money is spent towards commercial enterprises? So like just your normal retail stores that are profit based by consumers. And I think, you know, so if like I said earlier, so if like parents are spending all this money towards their schools and stuff like that, I read some different articles, and a lot of parents are saying, we're spending all of our money, our extra money into that, and now we don't have excess money to go to, whether it be the Timberwolves game or whether it be, to Target or to the local stores. We don't have the money to really go there and purchase, excess goods. Not necessarily that we need them, but we had that excess money to be able to do that. And now teams like I said, like the Timberwolves and stuff like that. If or whatever sports team in that area could possibly take a hit because these families don't have the certain funds to be able to go ahead and, really spend that extra money.
That would be probably something I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I know that's kind of like the one answer that would be for just because commercial enterprises, like I said, it's pretty much anything. So if they want to go to a local store and they're used to going to the local candy store and every Thursday or whatever with their kids and buying stuff, and now they have all these fees that they have to pay for the school. Sometimes especially if you're in a budget or if you have multiple kids, like we stated earlier, it might be a little bit harder to go out and spend that money into commercial enterprises and help them out there. So, I mean, it's kind of a tough situation, but I definitely think there needs to be some sort of change in the government, the way they put money towards schools, so stuff like this doesn't actually intertwine and affect other businesses.
Yeah, I agree with you. You nailed that
Yeah.
one.
Alrighty. Well, I think that was a good discussion, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here. And good job, and I think we did good for our first one.